Good morning. Good morning. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you to yet another installment of updates on the national recount. Of course, this is a program by the People's Progressive Party Civic. I'm your host, Michael Gordon. And with me this morning is Mr. Sanjeev Dattadin, attorney at law and candidate for the People's Progressive Party Civic. Sanjeev, we are now in day 9 of the national recount. We, of course, have seen a number of statements coming out of international organizations, regional organizations. Most recently and prominently was one by the Organization of American States, which is housed in Washington, and the head of the mission to the Guyana elections, observer mission to the Guyana elections, former Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Honorable Bruce Golding. He was very explicit and concise in his findings and his observations in what took place during the course of the elections. He did March 2nd, 2020, what took place at the Ashman's building subsequently. And he has quite expressly juxtaposed that against the revelations coming out of the recount. Your take on this? And of course, you're joining us from the confines of your home or your backyard, I would suppose.
Morning, Michael. Morning to all the viewers. The statement was a very telling statement. I mean, if you look around in the international community, for a statement to be that direct and that explicit as to exactly how the rigging was taking place in Guyana, we can't, you can't be more direct, you can't be more expressive of what transpired in Guyana. Now, Mr. Golding is a former prime minister. He has the status that he has, but what he said very clearly is what he saw was the most transparent attempt to fix an election that he had ever witnessed in his life. Now, additionally to that, as of yesterday, we have had 22 boxes that are connected or that were done by Mingo's spreadsheet. More than 1,600 votes were added to APNU from that spreadsheet. More than 177 votes were taken away from the PPPC on those spreadsheets. But we have to notice something, that what has happened as a result of what Mr. Golding said. There has been this, what we could call the shoot the messenger mentality. There have been all these criticisms about personal matters and matters that afflicted Mr. Golding when he was the Prime Minister of Jamaica. But so what about the other statement from the Barbados ambassador? The Barbados ambassador said that it was a clear attempt to rig an election too. Same ambassador to the OAS. We have the Carter Center that said it wasn't transparent. We have the US ambassador saying that it was not transparent. The British High Commissioner, the Canadian High Commissioner, CARICOM, Mia Motley, Ralph Gonzalez, all of these people are saying the same thing. And you attack Mr. Golding. So if you want to say you will shoot the messenger, are you saying all these other people are wrong and you alone are right? And when the count is being done, the count clearly demonstrates that the figures used by Mingo were invented. They're a farce. They were used to declare if they were used to steal an election, you know, and it's regrettable that we are locked into this battle where the minute somebody speaks up, an independent voice, the minute they speak up, you try to align them with the side that doesn't suit you, and you try to tear him down. Harmon's statement that he had that Mr. Golding has no credibility. What credibility does Mr. Harmon have? In light of what is going on in Guyana, in light of what the recount is revealing, what credibility would he have to say that those numbers and what Mr. Golding is saying is not true? What Mr. Golding is saying is being proven every day in the recount of the Region 4 vote.
But
every day.
would you say Mr. Golding's credibility is being juxtaposed against Mr. Mingo's credibility in some way,
Of
shape?
course, of course, that's essentially what it is. Mr. Golding is saying that you, Mr. Mingo, you were trying to rig the election. It was a transparent attempt. What you did is you counted statement of polls for some time, and then you went and you got a spreadsheet where you wrote your own numbers. We've all seen the video. We've all seen the video. Yesterday there was a news item by one of the stations which played in detail Mingo's a video taken in Hatfield Street at the GECOM, then the GECOM command, where he said he did that and he looked at the statement of polls and prepared this spreadsheet. But the spreadsheet numbers are not matching what the recount numbers are. But they're matching exactly all of the PPP statement of polls. So
let me stop you on a point of, I really apologize to be doing this, but many people have been saying or referring to PPP statements of poll. I would like it to be expressly said, those are statements of poll given to the PPP by GECOM.
Expressly, that is indeed the thing. It is true. We're referring to it as if it were it is not the PPPs. They are public documents. They were posted outside of every polling station, and everyone who was in that room as a scrutineer obtained a statement of poll. We have, hopefully, I see in the media, and I hope that what will happen is I see that the U.S. ambassador to Guyana is going to make another attempt to have the Carter Center be allowed to come to Guyana. There is no explicable reason why, there is no reasonable or rational reason why you wouldn't allow the Carter Center to come. They've
Which,
said they will get...
continues to be continues to hold valid accreditation.
All of the observers still have valid accreditation, and the Carter Center, since 1992 in Guyana, they have played an integral part in all our elections. They have a report on every one. And it's important that they come so that they can continue that process. And no one could legitimately say fairly that they're a biased organization. And we're allowing plane load after plane load of persons to come because Exxon requires workers. But we allowed a plane to fly empty from Miami to Georgetown when one person from the Carter Center wanted permission to come here, who had complied with the COVID guidelines. He took his test. He had a negative test. He was going to get on the plane. He was going to get here. He was willing to subject himself to a test if we required a test too. And that would have been done. But
okay,
still, we have the situation.
Go ahead, sorry.
We still have the situation where we are not allowing them here. I hope the intervention, and I hope that what is being said or in the press about the attempt by the U.S. ambassador, I hope there will be a different outcome. And I hope the Carter Center is here as soon as possible.
I wish to make a particular point in relation to the utterances by Bruce Golding and who Bruce Golding is. Bruce Golding's utterances are not made on behalf of Bruce Golding. Bruce Golding was appointed by the Organization of American States, which comprises, I believe, over 30 states in this Western Hemisphere, 30 nations in this Western Hemisphere. So Bruce Golding, those utterances are made as a representative of the Organization of the American States. The utterances is a representation of the view of the Organization of American States. And of course, Bruce Golding was appointed to head the observer delegation to Guyana. Not because someone likes Bruce Golding, a very reputable organization such as the OAS appointed Mr. Golding based on his credentials, his stature, and his history.
Indeed.
So your argument about shoot the messenger.
Realize, and that's why the shoot the messenger tactic is so foolish. Because as you rightly say, Bruce Golden didn't come here to observe by himself. He came for an organization, and that report and that what he was presenting yesterday, what was being presented was not only his, it was the team that came to Guyana. They prepared a report and they were submitting it to their council. So they all agreed with the position. Because as he was the head of mission, he was the one who verbalized it and said what were the things in the report and expressed his views about what was going on. But what he expressed is the view of everybody else who came to witness our elections, and that is a part of the report. So he was really giving the report to the council. He was making that report to the council. So it wasn't his view.
I want to hear your thoughts on the issue of the observations being currently made. We've got, so far, after 8 days of recount, we've had 367 boxes completed of 2,339 boxes. The issue of the observations juxtaposed against the order for the recount, which speaks expressly in relation about the actual counting of the ballots. Could you speak somehow to the legality of what is the legal foundation of these observations? What should be sought, or what is attempted to be sought from these observations?
Well, it is transparent. We don't need to even look at the law. The observations are being used to delay the process. The observations are being repeated about people being absent, about people not being dead, and all these things. And when you look at it, the majority of the names which they're mentioning, the majority of things which they're saying, those people are not ticked off as being voted. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, those people were voted in the presence of everyone. There was a folio with pictures, which we had discussed before, and there was no reason for that. As a matter of law, this is a recount. We should not be engaged in looking at the list of electors and all the other envelopes, which are more appropriate when you do an audit. And audits usually take place under different circumstances, and usually the court is involved. But you are trying to do now a full-fledged audit, which is only going to slow the process down. We have seen repeatedly the complaints of reading all the names, of going through all it's taking half an hour to 45 minutes per box every day to do these things. But there is no legal underpinning. Under the Representation of the People's Act, the OLE, which is the list in the box, should not be accessed. The envelopes other than the ones that have the ballots should not be referred to. Reference should not be made to that. But I admit that we accept that GECOM has done this in their authority of the constitutional provision. But to continue to engage these excuses, which have no foundation, people are just picking names and saying these people didn't do it. They have no proof. They have no supporting information. It should no longer be entertained. We need to move forward.
Okay, I'll ask you, I'll pick your thought on the issue of discrediting 2,339 stations multiplied by numerous people, multiple people who would have been at those stations. The observations are being made against the backdrop that in some way, shape, or form, in some of those stations, there was some form of complicity in an attempt to discredit or erode the value or the significance, the credibility of the elections. Speak to that, and we're almost at the close.
Yes, but I would say the answer to that, Michael, is very simple. This is what happens. You start with a little lie, then you get caught. You get to a bigger lie, you get caught. You need to get to a bigger and a bigger and a bigger. Eventually, you're going to have to discredit every polling station. You started with little things. You started with your spreadsheets. You started with you have statement of polls that you wouldn't show. But we keep getting bigger and bigger. So the only choice now is the preposterous position That's all that's left. That you have to say all these polling agents were against you. You've already said all of the international community, the Secretary of State in the UK, the Foreign Secretary in the US, in England. You've already said all of this because you have no other choice. You are being exposed daily, hourly by what is going on. So now you're left with, you have to throw your entire observation and scrutineer collective under the bus too. You have no other choice. But who would believe that? Who would believe that kind of preposterous nonsense? But you're now saying, well, all of our observers there didn't do their job. 2,300 plus. They didn't do their job.
Okay, there's a new narrative. I believe it came from Mr. Leonard Craig most recently, I think yesterday, that discrepancies were observed or noted as far back as the night of elections. Your views in 30 seconds.
That is nonsensical, because if that were true, he would have said that the elections were not free and fair, and he would have had a record that he would have displayed to the public to say, look, I have had this all along, but I am now raising it. That is not true. The poll books would have had those records recorded in them. They do not. And his thing would be that he would then know how many objections he has to make. He was asked about that and he couldn't say. He says he'll disclose it daily. Well, if you have it in advance, then tell us how much you're going to come with. Say how much objections you're going to have, but he doesn't have that. They're making it up as they go along. It is sad that they hold the nation to ransom to this.
Sanjeev, again, thanks for being a part of this program. Of course, to our viewers, this is the first in our daily updates, being updates by the People's Progressive Party on the national recount and all of the peripheral issues relating to the national recount. So you'll join us. We will be here again at 1 p.m. and again at 4 p.m. And of course, tonight at 8 p.m. Join it. Also, we ask you to stay tuned to the People's Progressive Party as we update you in a very transparent way, of course. All the issues relating to the national recount currently ongoing at the Artichoke Convention Center. I'm your host, Michael Gordon. Thanks for watching. Thanks again, Sandy.
Thank you, Michael. Be safe and may your God be with you.
Thank you. Same to you.